All right, we are moving on to topic 4, lesson 1, Indus Valley Civilization. Let's look at the digital notebook quick. We have 5 vocabulary words that you've already seen and defined with your Frayer. Page 2, there are 3 mastery check questions. Page 3, there are 2 regular questions. Page 4, you have 1 mastery check and 2 regular questions. Page 5, you have a map where you are just going to look at the map. Page 6 and final page, you have 1 mastery check question and 2 regular questions. Let's go ahead and listen to the lesson.
Lesson 1. The Indus Valley Civilization. The first civilizations arose near rivers. One such civilization was in South Asia. Its people farmed along the Indus River. Farmers grew plenty of food and populations grew. In time, some of the people settled in towns and cities and formed governments.
All right, let's go ahead and watch this video. I am going to make it full screen as I always do.
The first great civilizations in the ancient world grew up along great rivers. Why do you suppose that was true? Well, most people at that time still lived by farming and herding, which meant that you had to have a water supply you could depend on. Even after people started to live in towns and cities, having enough food and water was still important. In India, the earliest civilizations grew up along the mighty Indus River. The Indus flows out of the towering Himalayas in the north and spreads out over onto a wide plain. Melting snow and ice flooded the Indus Valley and left rich soil behind. Then, in the summer, wet monsoon winds blew from the ocean across the land, bringing still more water. So, in some ways, the Indus Valley was luckier than some other civilizations. It had richer soil and more sources of water, and its valley covered a much larger area of land. So people here were lucky in their environment. About 3000 BCE, cities began to grow in the Indus Valley. Archaeologists have found and explored 2 great cities, Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro, as well as some smaller towns. Compared with other ancient cities, they seem surprisingly modern, at least for a city more than 4,000 years old. Cities had sewer systems, and some houses even had indoor bathrooms. They used math to plan cities with a grid system of streets. They built huge granaries to store food. With all those advantages, it's not surprising that the people of the Indus Valley cities had lots of goods to trade with their neighbors. Traders carried cotton cloth, which was still something new. They also traded jewelry, pottery, and teak wood through the Middle East and into ancient Egypt. So then, why is it that we know less about these interesting people in the Indus Valley than we do about other ancient civilizations, like Egypt, for instance? Archaeologists have found stone seals with images and writings on them. They haven't yet deciphered them to know what they say. And they have found carvings and statues that might show beliefs about religion. Mysteriously, they haven't found a lot of the other things that help tell us about ancient civilizations, like statues of rulers or religious temples. And of course, they haven't yet been able to read the pictures and written symbols from the Indus Valley. What might they mean? What did they want to say to us? Those are great questions. But another one is, what happened to the people of Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro? Around 1700 BCE, this interesting culture began to vanish. People deserted the cities. Why? Climate change? Disease? Invasion? Maybe. No one is sure, though drought seems like the likeliest explanation. If you were an archaeologist, what clues would you look for to learn more about the people of Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro?
All right, let's go back to split screen. All right, you have your 5 vocab words. I need you to define them right now in your digital notebook. You have subcontinent, which means a large landmass that is set apart from the rest of the continent. River system, main river and all of the other rivers and streams that drain into it. Monsoon, seasonal wind that brings rain to the Indian subcontinent during parts of the year. Granary, special building used to hold grain. Citadel, fortified area. Go ahead and pause my video and define these 5 words on page 1 now. All right, we are on page 2 of your digital notebook. You have 3 mastery check questions. This first question, what physical feature separates the subcontinent of India from the rest of Asia? You will find that answer in this first yellow circled paragraph. Let's go ahead and listen.
What is the Indian subcontinent? Geographers divide the continent of Asia into regions. One of these regions is South Asia. It looks like a huge triangle jutting out into the Indian Ocean. Today, it includes the countries of India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Maldives, Nepal, and Bhutan. India is by far the biggest country in the region. For much of its history, all of South Asia was known simply as India. It is still called the Indian subcontinent. A subcontinent is a large landmass that is set apart from the rest of the continent. The Indian subcontinent stretches almost 2,000 miles from north to south. In some places, it is nearly as wide from east to west. The subcontinent is separated from the rest of Asia by the towering Himalayas and Hindu Kush, 2 mountain ranges to the north.
All right, again, number 1, what physical feature separates the subcontinent of India from the rest of Asia? Go ahead and get that answer now. Number 2, where did the first civilization of India arise? You're going to find that answer in this yellow circled paragraph. Let's go ahead and listen to river systems.
River systems. The Indus River flows across the northwestern part of the subcontinent. The Indus forms part of a river system, or a main river, and all of the other rivers and streams that drain into it. Another river, which is dry, but flowed parallel to the Indus, was the Saraswati. Recently, archaeologists have found almost 600 towns and villages buried in sand along the course of this now dry river. India's first civilization grew around the valleys of the Indus and Saraswati rivers. This civilization developed in an area that is dry most of the year. When the river flooded, it left behind very rich soil. River water let farmers harvest plentiful crops. These crops fed the cities of the civilization. To the east, the Ganges River flows more than 1,500 miles across the northern part of the subcontinent. Its floods created a huge fertile plain. After the Indus-Saraswati civilization died out, the Ganges Plain became the center of Indian civilization.
Number 2, where did the first civilization of India arise? You'll find that answer in this circled paragraph. Number 3, what did early farming villages in India depend on? You're going to find that answer in these 2 paragraphs. Let's go ahead and listen.
Climate. Much of the Indian subcontinent has a tropical climate. Seasonal winds, known as monsoons, help shape life in this region. In the winter, dry monsoon winds blow from the land to the sea. Little rain falls. In the summer, wet winds from the ocean blow onto the land. They bring rain, which provides water for crops and a welcome break from the intense heat. For much of its history, Indian agriculture depended on the summer monsoon. If the rains came on time, all was well. If the rains came late or not at all, crops died and people could starve.
Number 3, what did early farming villages in India depend on? The answer is in these 2 circled paragraphs.